So I think we'll go ahead and get started. I was unable to print out what I wanted to say, so I'm going to be reading from a screen. So uh, uh, please forgive me if this seems too formal. But anyway, I want to thank Julian and Brian both for being here, for saying yes. This is the 15th installment of the I Think I Can't Speak for Everyone Here reading series. This is a reading series for writers, people have written, are writing, or for people I think should be writing. Though poetry is kind of my way of sending that ghost mosquito into the dream of my blood, this is a writer's space. So vignettes, silences, singing, poems, excerpts from novels, stories, basically anything from the part of you that writes down the world is welcome here. Whether reading or not, of course, you can turn your camera on or off, keep it consistent with your comfort level. I would ask that you keep the audio off during anyone reading. If you have something to say about what you're seeing or something that you said, you can definitely drop it in the chat, and I'll see it there. You can direct message me on the chat also to sign up for the open mic if you haven't already. Just write your name, any pronunciation notes, and I'll do my best. Afterward, if you have any questions, requests, or comments, you can direct them to bluejawedsnake@gmail.com, which I dropped in the chat. Readings will be on the YouTube channel within a day of the reading. I also dropped the YouTube channel in the chat. You can definitely check out the 14 previous readings if you'd like as well. With that, we'll go ahead and get started. I want to introduce Julián Martinez as our first reader. He is the son of Mexican and Cuban immigrants. His work has appeared or is forthcoming from HAD, Hooligan Mag, Little Engines, the Sonora Review, and elsewhere. His debut chapbook, which I suggest everyone get, is called This Place is Covered Head to Toe in Shit, and is available now with Ghost City Press. You can find him online at martinezfjulian.com or IRL in Chicago, in real life in Chicago. Sorry, I told you I was reading from a screen. Anyway, I came to Julian's work actually through this reading series. Hadn't been aware of his work beforehand. He attended, did some of the open mics, and I was like, this dude needs to be part of this. Julian's work to me is urgent, but also given to the underworld of longing, as if you can see yourself or someone like you smoking a cigarette in a snow globe. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and give Julian spotlight.
Thanks, man. That was a really thoughtful and great intro that I hope I didn't interrupt with the Alan Parsons Bowles music. I didn't know you were going to do all that. I didn't want to create a negative overlap, a positive one instead. But yeah, that was dope. Thanks for having me. Thanks to Ben for a couple months ago introducing me to this reading series. Yeah, so let's get into some reading, man. This first piece is partly inspired by Ben and some of the pieces that he's put me onto. Kind of style that he calls like Russian nesting doll types of works. I feel like this is kind of like a anti-Russian nesting doll where instead of looking consistently inward, keeps looking outward. It's called WD-40. The key was having a harder and harder time with the lock. The lock was having a harder and harder time with the door. The door was having a harder and harder time with the frame. The frame was having a harder and harder time with the wall. The wall was having a harder and harder time with the house. The house was having a harder and harder time with the block. The block was having a harder and harder time with the tenant. The tenant was having a harder and harder time with herself. Herself was having a harder and harder time with her country. Her country was having a harder and harder time with its laborers. Its laborers were having a harder and harder time with their bosses. Their bosses were having a harder and harder time with their bosses. Their bosses were having a harder and harder time with their bosses. Their bosses were having a harder and harder time with their bosses. Their bosses were having a harder and harder time with their spouses changing the locks. Okay. I got really into for a while writing a series of love poems that were surrounding the kind of meme format of what if we kissed in the blank, uh, you know, insert pop culture location. Um, Here are a couple of those. This one's called Apocalyptic Date Idea number 126. What if we kissed in the McDonald's drive-through when it snowed, all the bushes looking like the flurry machine exploded, but it was okay. It was costless. Money didn't exist. We were in a post-apocalypse with a quarter tank of gas and empty bellies and trembling lips, and you and I called hello so many times it seemed like language didn't exist anymore. It used to. We could tell by the black box with red text flashing, please order here, next to the LED menu someone had to be generating electricity for. If not, then we'd die as the warmth waned in our arms with only an hour or so left. I don't know. I've never died before. I've tasted juicy perfection, which I hear is known as a little death, and that was what living was like right before the internet and the power and the money disappeared. Every day, a little death. And just as restless as in those days, we shouted at the walls of brutalist technicolor, then turned and pressed the hunger held in each other's lips together, just like before, as if nothing had ever happened. A voice that sounded like cigarette ash sighed, "Good evening, can I take your order?" Um, this one is about time travel. I don't think I've ever read this one before. I'm gonna let this train pass. Okay. This one's called Apocalyptic Date Idea number 1. What if we kissed for the first time and I tried to stop it? Sprinting up the street, scraggly bearded, soot skinned, tears across my face, minutes until the portal to my timeline closed and I screamed bloody murder to halt oncoming cars as I ran onto the block where I used to live, sprinting past lawns overgrown with May sun, a dumpster the length of 3 parking spots, a mom and dad pushing their daughter on a swing, and I froze when I saw a blue beater, cigarette smoke rising out the open window, and I knew it was us by the sound of our antic laughter. I was panting too hard to recall anything I had planned to say, but just then a hand on my shoulder made me spin. It was you. I knew your eyes through the plastic window of your hazmat suit, and you pulled me close. I was sobbing because you had died in my timeline, but you held me, and I held you, like the flesh under my tattered clothes could squeeze through your rubber suit and touch you. What if when I opened my eyes to give your masked face a kiss, you'd moved feet away, sighing with relief at our past selves? Part of me wanted to run and yank my past self out of the window while your past self drove off to somewhere safe, but it was like you were still holding me. I couldn't move at all. I looked down at my feet. They were disappearing into ash, but it felt like an embrace. It was happening to you too, and the last moment of my life was seeing our old car shutting off, going nowhere. Yeah. This one's also got kind of a sci-fi premise. It's called Disney's Imagination AI has invented a grandfather who will never die. I think this one is actually coming out tomorrow in Farewell Transmission's 3rd issue. So keep your eye out for this bad boy. My grandfather is back with us, thanks to Disney. His drunken ramblings at the family party, his bad politics, his nervous darting of the eyes. With Imagination AI's new and improved cultural oscillators, my grandfather can tell me things about my heritage I never knew, jokes he never got to share. We're in the backyard, and my grandfather is doing a 2-step to Bad Bunny's Después de la Playa, singing along with his hands cupped in the air like that Sopranos Uncle Junior meme. He asks where we're going after this. He wants to go to the movies. He wants to take my preteen cousins before they're too old for cartoons. He barks at them to get in my car, and just like me, they don't know how to tell him no. He can't afford the migraine medication his programmers are prescribing him, he says, handing me his cell phone mid-ring as I merge onto the highway. After 10 minutes of the customer service bot repeating, "Sorry, I didn't catch that," it says that my grandfather is in a virtual line of callers and that they'll call him back as soon as possible. The call drops and his phone, plugged into the aux cord, automatically streams Wu-Tang's Cream from my car speakers. At a red light, my grandfather stares out at the dusk clouds. The Mickey Mouse pin on his shirt pocket glistens, big-eared like him, like me. He can't decide which movie he wants to see as we pull up. My little cousin looks from their phone. My little cousins look from their phones and shrug and say they'll see whatever he wants to see. I tell him I thought he wanted to see a kid's movie. He doesn't respond. We're parked in the lot outside the theater, but he's not unbuckling his seatbelt. I unplug his phone and hold it to him, but he's not moving. I think to call the programmers until I remember we're in a virtual line. My grandfather mutters whatever he wants to see in English. I've never heard him speak English in my entire life. He gazes up at the half moon. He cups his hands in the air. He asks where we're going after this. I'll read another new one. If I can find it. Where'd it go? This one's called Blockchain. Blockchain. The bank vault was empty. A note on the linoleum floor said in tiny text that all funds had been transferred to a blockchain, strings of numbers under the message. Police sirens outside. A bald man in a tan suit was pushed into the vault by the stock of a trembling goon's rifle, rubbing his temples so hard it deepened his headache. The leader of the crew asked what blockchains were. The banker gulped and stuttered. He didn't really get it either. The goon butted the banker's dentures in, both collapsing in tears. Helicopter blades above. The leader ran out of the vault, waving his rifle at gagged hostages, demanding to know how to make withdrawals from blockchain. The gagged people gaped. The son of a teller was phoned. He couldn't give them a straight answer. That's not how it works, the son yelled, music thumping in the background. The leader chucked the phone and stomped it until it cracked. The call went on, permissioned data and the utopia of the immutable ledger as a cop busted through a window and the leader's rifle jammed. Yeah, I've been in my action movie bag, writing weird, I don't even know what. I'll keep it up with the fun ones. This one's called Goat Balls. You get them served on a plate in Olean, Missouri. Tastes like chicken, though they don't go down as easy. Sack lunch, they call it on the flyer of the annual testicle festival. You're attending for the first time. They got food, drink, merchandise, free parking, a cornhole contest, a beard show-off contest, but most enticingly, a ball-eating contest. They don't call them that, of course. Cowboy caviar, Rocky Mountain oysters, tender groins. You retired your boxing gloves just last week for your mental health, but you can make it in Olean, you tell yourself. You hear your name on the speakers. You puke before the clock starts. You find yourself signing up at testicle festivals all around the South and Midwest. You lose and you lose and you lose and you lose and you lose, but you've never felt hungrier until you're sick with it, till you're in a hospital bed with vitamins in your arms, until you're released, but you're back eating nothing but frozen goat balls bought off the dark web. You stop showing up to work. You run out of money in 3 months, spent it all on balls and boxing club memberships you forgot to cancel. You forgot anything but protein. You're the Thanos of manhood. It's been an exact year when you park for free in Olean again. The Olean prom king, last year's champ, is back, shaking the mayor's hand. His queen is in the front row, gasping at you, how everyone at the festival today has gasped at you. With trembling eyes, her hands clasped as she looks to the sky, maybe mouthing a prayer to the gods of her hometown, singing, Olean, 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 I'm begging you, but you spit greasy saliva at her before she's done, as if this had anything to do with her or her man or Olean fucking Missouri. This is about you. You never want to fight in your entire life. Yeah, I haven't read that one in a while. That one's crazy. I'll do a couple more. This one's called The Life of Pablo. It's also a newer one. Ben really fucks with this one, and I'm gonna do the weird voices that he fucks with. The Life of Pablo. In Pablo Picasso's shirt pocket lived a tiny naked man, also named Pablo. Little Pablo emerged after Picasso wiped his semen with a balled up shirt in the wee hours of a lonely morning. Little Pablo whispered, "Yes, yes, more," to Picasso as he painted, and Picasso listened. These suggestions came to the old man as urgencies from a higher power. It was little Pablo who told Picasso to accept the commission for a sculpture of his to be built in Chicago. This was against Picasso's lifelong scruples, but little Pablo had other ideas. Little Pablo wanted to take over America. "Yes, no, that's right. Give it wings," little Pablo whispered, and Picasso obeyed. When the sketches for the sculpture were complete, little Pablo yeeted himself into the envelope just as it was being sealed. A lightning bolt of grief tore through Picasso, though he didn't know why. He went on to draw fucked up little guys for weeks. When the architect opened the envelope in his office, little Pablo plopped out, gasping for air. The architect flicked the tiny naked man into the trash, landing him in a sanitation facility on the outskirts of the city. Little Pablo made it from pocket to pocket of handshaking men until he was in the shirt of Mikey Butters, one of Chicago's longest serving mobsters. But Mikey was losing his ability to do day to day tasks. Little Pablo whispered, "You came into the kitchen for a pen, a pen." But the old boss whimpered and rubbed his aching head. Little Pablo jumped out of a car window, almost landing on the studded wrist of a capo, and hit the sidewalk. He ambled from alley to alley, scaring lost cats with his fiery stare, drunkenly screaming his sworn vengeance on his masters. Now Picasso is dead, and Mikey Butters is dead, but little Pablo is more powerful than ever. Here he goes, telling me to tell you he's more powerful than ever. Um, yeah, I think I'll close out with these two here. This one is a little less, well, it's not as absurd as the other ones. It's called Flavor Flav. I mostly don't remember high school because I was mostly on drugs, but I'm pretty sure, not certain, that I did not meet Flavor Flav when he walked around our local mall. My best friend was there and saw him, clock chain and all. He said he'd seen Flav there every day that week, which must have been a lie. Same way I lied to him about my family being of royal Mexican blood. Really, my family was farm workers, factory men, refugees. Their names were like the names on jerseys hanging from the rafters outside the school auditorium, where I sat and waited for my buddy to come pick me up after rehearsal and go smoke. Names I didn't recognize. My mother was worried sick all those years, her fears worse than she could dream. I snuck past her TV lit bedroom and out the back door every night. Weed was illegal and narc cars stayed circling the parks, so our nights, me and my friends, were paranoid and hysterical, set to deafening odd future. My grades were great, so our days, me and my mas, were happy. My friends and I made a vine about my dad walking out on us. It was actually funny, but sad and wrong, and I went along with it because it was actually funny, just like when I swallowed the bitter tab of acid in a stranger's basement years later, or when they filmed me licking the ash out of a dirty car seat, or I don't like talking about drugs, so let me move on. I didn't mean for this to be sad. It wasn't. It was awesome. Yeah, it was fucked up sometimes, but not as fucked up as me or any of my friends' 20s. I forgive the teenage cruelties done from a place of fear in the face of love. I hope the cruelties I subjected my friends to can be forgiven too. I wish I could go back in time, not to relive it, but to see how hard I was beaming, walking to the school parking lot with my pals, to hear how loudly we laughed about God knows what. How long before it was a viral meme, my best friend shouted, "Yeah, boy!" out the shotgun window of a Pontiac Aztec as it peeled off towards the local mall, us hoping to meet Flavor Flav because my best friend promised he was for real, really dead serious, not lying about there still being time. Um, and this is the last one I'll read. Thanks again for having me, y'all. Um, where'd she go? Let me pull her up. Here we go. It's called Apocalyptic Date Idea number 17. What if we kissed in the governor of North Dakota's office behind the mural of Phil Jackson? 5 eras of Phil smiling down upon us. Gray-haired sacred hoops Phil in the center, mellow and resolute in his gray suit like God, though I'm sure he'd resent that comparison. Scoffing while cleaning his 13 championship rings, chuckling, cracking his knuckles. Let's kiss with our hands at our hips like Phil, pushing our blazers back and showing our suspenders and belt buckles. Kiss me like it's game 6 and the Bulls are the best on the paint again. Chicago's red neon heart may crumble into the netherworld, but all that matters is how effortlessly we slide as one. Kiss me by the water cooler, so Dennis Rodman freaky that the governor's secretary can say nothing. Kiss me wet and sloppy, the confetti's coming down. Let's bathe each other in Gatorade, be banned from North Dakota, and get a hero's homecoming in Chicago. Thanks.
Well, thanks so much. Thanks so much, Julian. That was lovely and funny and sad. Um, all that playing with language or languages you haven't heard or all those kinds of things. I was I'm actually working on something, but I was thinking how language is never actually cruel, right? It's what you say with it, and the grammar of cruelty infects language. So I just wanted to thank you for using um, language and the nowness of pop culture to not be cruel. That probably wasn't as smooth as I thought it was going to be, but thanks for being here. That was lovely. Everybody check out Julian's work and definitely go get his collection. With that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Brian Dawson. Brian Dawson hates biographical paragraphs. When he isn't battling imposter syndrome, he is working on learning to take off the mask he wears for neurotypical people. He would like you to know that Barry Bonds, I agree, was the greatest baseball player to play the game. Let's go Giants. I came to Brian's work through MySpace poetry forums, like 2008. So, and then we kind of formed a friendship. Had some phone calls, but yeah, it's been a long friendship. And then I also came to his work through his collection, The War on Unicorns. And he also is the individual that turned me on to the poetry of Franz Wright, who Franz is, I think, the star of my afterlife. So thank Brian for that. What I love about Brian's work, besides that it really fucking works, is the desperate kind of standstill it comes to through its honoring and acknowledging of a constant chaotic before. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and give Brian the spotlight, and excited for y'all to hear him read. If I can. Oh, that is
Hello.
not the right button. I apologize. I'll take myself off. I suck at this. I'm sorry. All
Do
right,
I
we're good.
have to have my video on? Is that necessary?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Whatever your
Fantastic.
comfort level is.
Oh, I drank way too much weed tea right now. I'm rather relaxed laying down. So, all right. Well, thanks. You always have the best things to say. And then I feel like, oh shit, I'm really gonna let him down. It's so good. It's a lot of pressure. I'm going to I couldn't figure out anything to read. Um outside I just figured I'd read from the War Unicorn, so then I couldn't figure out which specific one since there's really no specific order. Um and I'm just gonna start at one. So, all right. One. The dog barks constantly. Shining men in riot gear accept flowers. The coffee is always cold in Antarctica. If I knew myself, I'd have an answer. Save the Delta smelt to save ourselves, this time the Double Tackle Shop sings. Sin has a cheap price, but a lengthy seat in purgatory. If only Caesar could see what he started. Two. Oh, what should we talk about when we talk about marriage? when you are at work 85% of the waking life. Office gossip becomes your television. A paper airplane flies towards a furnace. The martyr needs an audience, or else it is only unknown death. America has never been at the edge of a sword. Every town has a bar like this. 3. Saturday surprised us with its teeth. No one wants to be the ground, the dirt, the very substance of being. They only want to shoot for the clouds, stars. The lines outside the discount store have lips, hanging. Terrible wooden women with breasts of cast iron and buy organic everything in the local Safeway. This is not that. 4. Hiding inside old socks and magazine pages are robots. I hear the train call between the growing well of wind. Trophy wives confessing treason to their young lovers over coffee never know the sky is falling. Therefore, because of this, God, your lips stand flirtatious, rebellious against the puritanical rumors of their guests. A remade red dress hangs. Oh my gosh. Barton, say it for me. Anyway, it hangs on a wooden rack in a closet left over from the Mormon migration, and voices burst to a climax. Everyone is looking for the new American poetic consciousness. Forgiveness is the hardest part. 6. The skirt is torn just so that she steps out of my car. I see the smooth fabric covering her unmentionables. Piles of old newspapers, yellow in the long light of a sequester sun. We need no new reason for remorse. 7. You can, she says, signed sincerely, said Heather's counselor. Do all monsters hate other monsters? The Hartley children all drowned in the knee-high waters of Hellhole Reservoir. Heaven or Hades, just simply make up your mind. 8. When will you show yourself? Supplicant center, subjectivity, an opera for cocktail revisionists. Bask in the Roman spring, your cloak shooting palace. Blessed are those who reconfigure their chemistry, like missing buttons or patches on blue jeans. Remember to run. 9. Everything is sentimental. Whispers shimmy through cracks in concrete structures. They slide or stumble over empty sidewalks. Steps sprout and sway against forgotten statues until all that is left is a semblance of old secrets. Most graduates wish they were Molly Tall, nice nails and a strong hairline. The milk sops are always the first to fail. Down over Miller's Crossing, across the street from our Sister of Salvation, 40 foster children wait in shearing cold for hand-me-down jackets, half-hearted hot chocolate, and to hear stories. We were never alone. After hours of work, the shoes the fisherman's wife wears, some jive-ass slippers. 10. Our bodies In bed, bask in the echo of brass horns radiating off the brick avenues outside our building. An open window, a spoon, a lighter, an old belt, a pink chair, a portrait of a prince, painted by your grandmother who lost both feet from years of running with a sidelong gait. The weather is regarded as the very nadir and scoff of conversational topics. You ask for a cigarette. There hasn't been a breath of wind in days, and the water has turned brown. Two lovers stand under the Silver Street skyway, giggle and greet, lips to tease the tongue. They grapple with the reverence under extravagant interlude, wet with the woodstone creaking sweat. In this city that never sleeps, I can't recall such stillness. 11. Will you let me know when I'm done? You said 15 minutes, right? I'm not really paying attention. All right, 11. We will be cutting down all the trees that block the view to our beautiful buildings. Bad news is too polite to knock door to door. When will you realize Vienna waits for you, world? Phone calls from block numbers and letters with no return addresses reach you at the same time, saying the same things along the same lines. Somewhere in St. Augustine, the former lover is sleeping face down in water. In a life full of fragile gods and human interruption, there's only one absolute. Then again, after before and towards ago, as she came, so she comes, leafless and singly, shrouded, drying under the solstice sun. Bargain days for simple perspective have come to a regrettable end. 13. An aging woman on the shoreline bus is reading, rooming, and eating something that looks like a cross between baby food and cat vomit. Vigorous wind arises from Center City and carries with it the remains of the day from dust and hair and the smallest flecks of skin. The neighborhood birds bend the throttle over the ground and buzz upwards and flutter into the gray skyline when they're gone. The banquet that evening was a curious one, a union of consumption and case. 14. Summer boys are sacking York down by the teeming Carmel. The men were shocked to find her skin resembled Chinese plates. We have been given the gift, and it's shame people don't. We've been given the gift, and it's a shame people don't use it. Classic theories make great greeting cards and boring dinner conversation and salacious pillow talk. It's amazing how little we know each other, even though we are neighbors and classmates and coworkers, children, fathers. Closed doors are so inviting. 15. Help is overrated. Love is an unfunded mandate. Twice these rivers overcame our strengths, and out the door we walk like strangers. 16. How much have we lost in the county hospital? The chubby baby wears the San Francisco Giants hat in the picture after the World Series. A small casket fills the foyer, laps of roses round the path. We have so many reasons to cheer. 17. Red leaves litter the sandy walks. Families run in blue, yellow, green scarves. He wishes and wishes to retract all his lives and break them into multicolored piles. Yet he is selfish, and fall has already begun. Is that good, Barton? Or should I keep on?
I mean, you're good. What I mean,
All right.
if you want to keep going or?
I mean, I'm fine with being done right here, bro.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a while, dude.
Well, I want to thank you, Brian, for entertaining my ask for sure. That was the love.
Yeah, I mean, you've never really like put me on the spot, and like I was like, all right, I'll do it, and then I was like, I haven't done this in like 14 years. What am I doing?
Yeah. It's funny that 14 years can go by and you suddenly get a Facebook message, which
Well, yeah, you're a good dude, bro. We've known each other for a really long time now, and it's just like, yeah, sure. Would you ask me? I was like, yeah, sure. Because
yeah,
Jessica's always going to be a hard no, you know. She was just like, no, and
yeah,
I'm like, of course, yeah, yeah, whatever, dude.
yeah.
So no,
So
I appreciate it.
yeah, absolutely. For those who don't know, Jessica Dawson,
Yeah, but
is
she's my
also,
better half.
yeah. I mean, well,
Yeah,
I'm not going to speak to that, but is also a
no,
fine writer, in her own right, who
for
I
sure.
also asked, but apparently Facebook Messenger isn't, only some people say yes
No,
on Facebook Messenger.
she's a busy lady, man. So she's just like, nope. And I was like, okay.
I like that it was right away.
Oh yeah,
That's
it's
that I love
instantaneous,
that
dude.
actually.
Yeah.
So,
Oh
but
yeah. Well,
yeah,
I appreciate it, man.
absolutely, absolutely. And I would I would direct everybody to get,
There's nowhere to get it anymore.
yeah,
So
that's kind of what I thought.
yeah,
So
I,
I
I
do have
was. Yeah, go ahead.
I do have three copies of it. So if anybody wants the War on
I,
Unicorns, well, if two
yeah,
people want it,
I
you can
kind of
message
like
me
a copy.
you will.
I I don't have one.
All right, man. Well, never mind. If
Yeah,
so, Brian gets one. So
awesome, dude. That's
I have
great.
one copy of it left.
I think
So
I think I've destroyed all my copies in like
yeah,
manic like
yeah.
this.
I've had that experience too. My first published work, Infinite Cinema, is no longer out there, and then my other one, Skin to Skin and Unmarked Life, the wonderful editor that asked me for that work, he actually passed away, so that's actually not available either. So it's an interesting, self-publishing, publishing, whatever stuff just goes away, and I think stuff like readings like this and engagement like this keeps things alive, which was kind of um my
No,
goal
man, it was a.
with this.
I'm
Um,
so far removed from a lot of community now. It was really nice. Julian, listening to them,
you
hearing just like the freshness of the voice. Like I'm like, oh shit, dude, I am really getting old.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, I'm having a hard time being 48 as well.
yeah,
Um, when I started doing this, and readers like Julian and Ben and uh, kind of was like, well, hey, there's a place to do this and still have fun without you know, yeah, I don't know, without the pressure of publishing and submitting and all that. Like, I mean,
yeah.
the end result is
Yeah.
language and is
I,
connection. Um,
I feel like there's just I don't know. I'm old. I go to work, go home, and do my thing, and I had a really like I had like 10 years where I could not write. I would like open up a Word doc and like the cursor, the linking of the cursor would like talk shit to me. And
well, it's like it's like an ask, right? And as soon as, especially anti-authoritative personalities, as soon as you're asked to do something, I think it doesn't happen. And that cursor
yeah,
sometimes, man, it's
it
like it's
got really
asking every
bad.
question.
And I had to like remove myself because I would see all the beautiful work that people were doing. It's like it totally inspiring stuff. And then I'd sit down and it was like really, I called it like in baseball, man. Like I had a case of the yips, dude, for like 10 years. I could not get past that blinking cursor, and I'm finally coming at it thanks to the wonderful work of amazing artists today that have kind of like woke up my inspiration. Yeah. Hey, see, that's how it happened. You asked me right when I had that moment. Like, it was like a day after I had that. All right, I'm gonna get back on the horse.
And you
And
don't
then
know, man.
Barton,
Maybe that's why I asked. Like maybe
yeah,
there was
I'm
a
trying.
blinking cursor in a lot of
Yeah,
people's lives. But yeah.
for sure. Well, I appreciate it, Barton. Thank you very much, man. It was an
Oh
honor to read the film. Really
yeah,
great
thank
stuff, bro.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you for saying yes. And um yeah, with that, so I didn't really have anybody sign up for the open mic. So I just had a couple poems I was gonna read real quick, and then I'll let everybody get out of here. I know it's like 3:45 on a freaking Saturday. Um, and I got another one of these coming tomorrow, with another reading tomorrow. So if y'all want to keep an eye out for that. But with that, I'm just gonna read two poems. One is from Sarah Ghazal Ali's collection Theophanies. Poem is called Temporal. Oh man, I'm old. Hold up. All right. At 5, my father shows me a color-coded model of the brain. We take it apart together, piece by heavy plastic piece. Blue, temporal lobe, burrowed within a red bean, the amygdala. Like a seed? Yes, he laughs, where feelings bud. I picture current anger, pleasure amassing in brick and berry, and fear as a clotting kind of dark, the first prick of blood on a thumb. I unlimb my dolls, braid and section their stiff hair. I scratch their painted eyes, chide them for their lack of anything occipital. I've seen it, pried open, the skulls, found them empty. I wish I could be taken apart. Thank what keeps me alive inside. Amygdala from almond, the precise shape of our eyes. Mine and his identical, but for his laugh lines. To live is to see but the walls of my body, flesh the furthest point from the formless God my Father never joins me in believing. Each spring he tends fervently his garden, coaxes to life new green. Genesis splits the earth anew, decreed in old age to bear a son. My namesake trusted the parts she couldn't see, the buds God insisted were there, whole nations within her. From beyond scripture, she returns to crawl through my throat. Her involuntary sound, a revelation. I'm frightened, I'm awestruck. She lingers in the periphery, shaded behind doors. Faith, a legacy of echoes. Every echo, a reflection of voice. I still hear her laughter. What I know is the brain's doing. What I believe bewilders me. All right. A second poem I'm going to read is from Natalie Albert's collection Overland. Poem is called Field Work. A sea otter carcass twisted on a beach. We scan the beach looking for artifacts, find only bones. The body gyrates after death into a pickled rag. Along the forest road, stones move under our tires. I learn of manuports moving items from one landscape into one they can't belong to. In Alaska, I followed a falling feather of an eagle and held it up to the sky, a gift. I carried it to New York, a smuggled thing I couldn't understand at 12. Body cam footage released of the slain child. The eagle feather kept for hundreds of thousands of miles and the gun thrown behind a fence in fear. T asks if anything can be an artifact. I think of handguns and horizon lines in the dirt. 200 years worth of buried surfaces. The archaeologist raises a juvenile whale's dorsal fin she finds at low tide. Artifacts must be altered by man, she tells us. The sea otter on the beach died from its injuries, broken backed and ravaged by an orcapod. Eventually, it will have never been here. I track sand into the car, little grains of after on repeat. All right. Again, thank you everybody for being here. Work was amazing. Reading was amazing. It'll be on YouTube within a day. And with that, tune in tomorrow when we have another one of these going on. And love y'all. I'll let everybody get on out of here.
Are you sure, Ben? You got anything to share?
No, I think Martin's good to close us out on those. Those were great. This was awesome. Thanks, guys.
Oh, sorry, bro. Did I miss?
No. I had nothing planned, so don't worry.
Okay. All right, cool.
No,
All right,
I was
man.
just tuning in as a listener. This was great.
All right, no problem. Have a great one.